Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we'll be taking a look at this review copy that I was sent of Through Ultan's Door, issue number 2. Before we get started though, quick shout out to my recent patron Danny. Thank you so much, Danny, for joining me on Patreon and helping to support this channel. If anyone else would also like to join me on Patreon, I will of course put a link down in the description below. So, Through Ultan's Door is the series created by Ben Lawrence exploring the Dreamlands in Zine form. And just like issue number 1, which I have reviewed previously, I'll put a link right up here, this book is beautiful in terms of its construction and its design. This is not a print-on-demand book. These zines are hand-constructed out of very high-quality cardboard and cardstock and put together with a lot of attention to detail and to usability. Here's our back cover. So this has the same gimmick, I suppose, as our first issue, which is that the cover is actually detachable. It comes off like this, and you can see the entire map of the dungeon right there. Now, this has a disadvantage in that it makes the zine as a whole kind of fiddly because the cover is always coming off. But the advantage of having this almost as like a little DM screen is really fantastic. You can read the book and you never have to flip any pages, because as you come to a room description, you can easily just refer to this, which you have right next to you. This was incredibly convenient, and it's going to make the book much easier to run than a lot of dungeon crawls of this size. It's also much easier to read than the one from the first issue. I think I had a little bit of difficulty reading some parts of that, especially finding some of the room numbers. That's definitely been cleared up here. I had no issues on that front this time. It also comes with an encounter card, which is a lovely little touch. It's almost like a little menu of the different types of monsters and adversaries that you might encounter in this dungeon. There's just 8 of them, so as you roll off for random encounters, you can just roll and look them up very easily on a separate card. So they're like little handouts for the game master, which is really cool. Let's look at what we have inside the actual book. So, like all of the stuff that I've seen from Ben Lawrence so far, there is an incredible sense of taste to the design of all of this. Beautiful layout, and he works with a couple different artists to create this very coherent style. This very decadent, baroque, almost body horror feel to all of the art, and it works together beautifully. There's tremendous detail to it. It's some of the best art that I've ever seen in a zine for Dungeons & Dragons, that's for sure. And there's a great example right there. So we start off with Shades of Zine, I think is how you pronounce it, which is the city in the Dreamlands, which you are exploring the underneath of in this episode. And it goes into some of the undead and how they work there. We have house rules for Slumberland. So this gets into how do you run an ongoing campaign in the Dreamlands. So there's some great little tweaks that you can throw in here. For example, a shifting cast. So it's pretty common for new players to simply drop in to a game like this, or for players to get killed off, right? Your PC dies and you need to introduce a new one. And that can be trouble for some, especially new DMs, trying to figure out how do I add this new character in without, making things feel disjointed. Well, this is Dreamland, so characters suddenly just appear or disappear all the time, and no one really thinks that's very strange, right? In your own dreams, that happens all the time. There's suddenly a character there, and you don't remember them ever showing up, but it doesn't bother you. So you're working with that dream logic to your advantage. We also have another house rule. I have dreamt of this place before. So when a character reaches 3rd level from adventuring in the Dreamlands, and every 3 levels after, roll a d8 on the following table. And there's 6 entries here, so you might not get anything. But you can get clues as to other aspects of the Dreamlands. That can give them clues to further adventures, it can give them hooks, and it can give them just advantages in general. And possibly more XP. We have the Catacombs of the Fleisch Guild, which is the main area that we are exploring in this dungeon. So you have factions, the Fleisch Guilders, the Flayed Heretics, the Muttering Dead, all great thematic villains. And in general, this whole place is more like a weird museum that you run around and explore. But the more you mess around with stuff, the more you're breaking things open and looking for treasure, the more the dungeon will escalate on you. more patrols will be sent down there. The patrols will be more aggressive, more guards will be posted, and things will get more and more difficult for you, which I love because that makes it very interactive and very faction-based. There's also a powerful demon running around inside there too, so watch out for him. We have a number of encounters. These are replicated from the encounter card, so you don't have to read them both, but it's nice that they're in both places, including things like fat spirits, muttering dead, flayed ones, and we start getting into the actual key itself. This isn't a huge dungeon. I'll bring back the map here. So I think you could easily explore this pretty thoroughly in a couple of sessions, maybe one or two, depending on how long your sessions are. But there is no real empty rooms here. There's a lot of density. So every room has something interesting in it, often very dangerous, but there's often a lot of rewards that go along with that. And there's just a lot of flavor packed into every space. So players that love to poke and prod and, nudge things with their 10-foot poles are going to have a lot of fun, especially if like digging into a lot of the detail. The actual room descriptions are very well written. So these aren't done in the sort of hierarchical bullet point style that I tend to favor. But because they are so clearly and elegantly written, the sense of the place moves into your brain very quickly. So there isn't a lot of trying to rereading it, trying to figure out what was that place again, and looking for little details that are buried in the text. You don't see much of that. And it really is a joy to read. That's a rare thing for me to say when reading room descriptions. I usually don't have that much fun reading, what is this mural like? But they are a lot of fun. They're very creative. We have lots of different traps and treasures. We have weird little stories that are just like embedded in the architecture and in the mummies and in the murals, and so much stuff that you can dig into and just pull out or speculate on as you explore. And I love things like that. It definitely has a lot of body horror, as I mentioned before. So definitely not going to be an adventure for everyone. People who are more squeamish or don't like a lot of these often rather dark and nasty themes may not enjoy this as much. Though you could, of course, tone it up or down depending on what the sort of thing that your party prefers. We have a good amount of loopiness, I suppose, to the dungeon. So there's like lots of loops here and here and here. So it's a very non-linear dungeon. We even have this section that runs underneath there. And there's like this main area right here, which is, I suppose, the centerpiece of the dungeon, with a lot of these sort of main rooms to a number of different gods that all have different aspects of the human body. And there's a hidden room in the center. All of these things can be explored, and they can be taken advantage of by a clever party. But people who are blundering around and not taking their time are going to have a bad time of it, as is pretty typical for an OSR adventure. There were a couple of issues with some of the text. I don't remember exactly where it is, but where it said that some of the text in here refers to rooms by the wrong room number, I believe. Where it'll say that it transports them to a particular room, but the room is like not numbered correctly. After reading it a couple of times, I figured out what it was talking about, but that was a little bit of an issue. We get all the way to the end here. We have a number of great magical items, including a sentient sword. Not enough sentient swords in Dungeons & Dragons. So the Spatterhaft, which is a long alchemical blade, and is fashioned from a semi-transparent flesh-colored metal. Just beneath the surface, blue imperfections are visible like tangled veins. The handle is bone with an intricate silver censer for a pommel, into which can be put tiny bricks of pleasing incense or holy oil. It is an intelligent blade whose purpose is sacred slaughter. So you're really in for it if you want to join up with this blade, but it has a lot of advantages to taking it along too. And we got some new cool spells. Maggot Ward, Fatten the Herd, Sacrificial Ecstasy, and Reveal Anatomy, all of which are, again, body horror themed. So this is a really beautiful book, and it matches very well with our original volume. So if you're into this sort of dark Baroque fantasy, these books are a luxurious way to experience that. it's the sort of adventure that I would definitely run myself because I love these short dungeons, especially ones that are packed with flavor and mystery as these ones are. And although I think I may tone down some of the grossness a little bit just to fit the preferences of my party. But as always, I will put links down in the description below where you can check this out for yourself. And I would advise checking out the first issue too. I think the first one is still available in PDF. Print is touch and go a little bit because these are all handmade. So sometimes you have to wait for when they're going to be available. At the time of recording this, these are available in print form. So I'll make sure to provide a link to that as well. Thanks for watching my videos. If you enjoyed, remember to subscribe, and you can even click the bell icon if you want to get notified when new reviews drop. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you guys next time.